Hello there guys, this is Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space, and I am tonight starting the Name of the Rose vlog, which I'm going to be buddy reading with Victoria from A Musical Bookworm. We've been meaning to read this book together for like a year, so I'm very excited to start it with her. She has already read it, and I believe she's reading most of it on audiobook. I bought the audiobook like over a year ago on Chirp Books because they had it for very cheap. So I've had it just like stored on my phone, just waiting to start. But I haven't started it yet, but I just have a feeling that I'm gonna be needing to read it physically for the most part. So I got a copy from the library and I made sure that they're matching translations. Let me see who the translator is.
By Umberto Eco. Translated from the Italian by William Weaver.
William Weaver. Okay, so that's who I'm reading by. And I'm very excited to read this. I think I really have no idea what to expect. So I set up a little part in my journal so that I can sort of schedule out my reading a little bit because I want to finish this book in about 2.5 months. So every 2 weeks, I'm going to try to read one day. And there's usually under 100 pages in each day of the book. I forget how many days there are, but it's enough to equal 2 weeks. And so we're gonna be like checking in pretty often, I think, on Voxer and texting. Today is the 2nd of September. I did not get a chance to read it last night, but I'm about to go read some of it now. Talk to you soon. Hello there guys, it is now Wednesday, September 7th. I read some of The Name of the Rose this morning and it was so good. I'm really adoring this book, so I can tell you a little bit more about it now. I have been reading like little bits of it every night just to kind of get into it, and it's finally paying off because last night when I was reading it, it was like, this is so good. I'm so into it. So I'm like 9% through, which I know isn't very far, but you know, it's a 400+ page book. And if I'm really intimidated by a book, I just try to start slow and read a little bit every day, and that's usually how I can get going into a book. And this one I think is going to take off. So it's set in like 1327 in Italy, and I think a lot of it is going to take place in a monastery. The author's note is really interesting because it's fake. There's a fake author's note about it being translated by this modern Italian. And I actually thought it was a real author's note at first, but Victoria was like, nope, it's tricky. So I need to actually Vox Victoria this morning after I update this vlog about my thoughts. But honestly, so beautiful, so beautiful. The writing is gorgeous, and there's a bunch of Latin portions. I'll give you some of those descriptions in a second. So far where we are, it's following 2 monks. They've been called to a monastery to investigate a potential murder of an acolyte. It's giving me super Sherlocky vibes, and it's giving us a lot about the inner workings of monasteries and like the thoughts of those who live there and the kinds of things that they think about, which is fascinating to me. Monastic life has always been really fascinating to me, and I will always be thrilled to read from those perspectives. But now we see through a glass darkly, and the truth, before it is revealed to all, face to face, we see in fragments, alas, how illegible, in the error of the world. So we must spell out its faithful signals, even when they seem obscure to us, as if amalgamated with a will wholly bent on evil. So this is a big theme that's coming up, and I sent that quote to Victoria and she's like, yes, that's an important quote. One of the Latin quotes in here is translated actually taken from a longer Latin quote that is translated as a book and a picture are to us a mirror. In it our life, our death, and our present condition and our passing are faithfully signified. So it's talking about how through this endless array of symbols, God speaks to his creatures of eternal life. And we have to recognize the evidence which the world speaks to us through, like it's a great book. So basically God speaks to us through creation about eternal life, which I totally think is true. And it is a mystery, and it's so, yeah, I love it. There's so much like theological sense kind of built into this story. I just already know that I'm gonna love it. It actually reminds me a lot of a book that I buddy read with Faith from Faith and Books, which is a wonderful channel. Y'all should definitely check her out. I'll link her down below. Along with all the other channels that I'm mentioning, I always try to remember to link the channels that I'm mentioning in the description below, along with other information for you guys. But it reminds me of Laurus by Eugene Vodolazkin, which Faith actually bought for me, which was so nice. So we buddy read it. That one was like a little bit violent and stressful for me, but like overall, it was an amazing book, and the writing was really beautiful and engaging, and it was very like gritty, and it was also set in this kind of like medieval time period. So only that one was set in Russia. Reminds me of that quite a bit. So if you enjoyed Laurus, or you enjoy books about like the priesthood or anything, recommended. This one already, I already know you're gonna love it. Try it out. Hello. It is now September 15th. And I am going to hang out with my mom. So I'm just gonna grab us some pumpkin spice lattes, and we're gonna walk in the park. She's on a prayer call right now, and then she's gonna meet me at 10:30. It's 9:48. I am like 26% in, and I updated Victoria yesterday, and I am loving this book so much. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Brother Cadfael, but I don't think that they're actually that similar. It's just that they're mysteries, and they're both set in monasteries to some degree. So anyways, I'm really enjoying the fact that the main character is like Sherlock, and the person that we are seeing the story from is like Watson, and he keeps saying like, oh yeah, I'm definitely getting wiser, you know, all this stuff that is like very Watson. I feel like I'm learning so many new words from this book. I just highlighted last night licit, which is like the opposite of illicit, which makes complete sense, but I'd never heard that before. So it's so funny the way they're using it though, is they keep saying like it's not licit. So basically they're saying it's illicit. They're just using the word licit and putting the not before it. It's just funny. So I'm really enjoying the vocabulary that I'm learning, and I really feel like there's a strong mystery going on, and there's some hints of stuff, kind of like in Sherlock Holmes. He'll like hint that he knows something but doesn't spell it out, and Watson's like, oh yeah, I think I know what you're talking about, and is embarrassed by his wisdom. That was actually a quote of it. It's just so Sherlock, which I'm loving. But there's a lot of things that are like not part of the mystery. Victoria compared it to the Brothers Karamazov, which I think is like a very astute comparison, because in the Brothers Karamazov there's a lot of, in Dostoevsky in general really, there's a lot of like pauses in the storyline where people just like talk about philosophy and debate philosophy, and that happens a lot in this book. So they especially talk a lot about the history of monasteries and the different arguments between different sects of the monasteries. Oh, sorry, this road is so gross. Hang on, it'll get better. There's a lot of like Italian history and monastic history in there, and it's fascinating, and I'm loving learning a little bit about that. And oh my gosh, this road is so bad. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of other things that I want to say, but I don't remember what all they are. So maybe I should finish talking to you guys later, maybe while I'm waiting for my coffee. So I'll talk to you soon.
Because Dad keeps her awake.
Turkeys! Whoa, lots of them. Hey guys, I'm at the coffee shop and I ordered our drinks. I'm so excited. So the things that I wanted to tell you that I couldn't remember while I was driving was there's so much foreshadowing in the book. Like, it keeps talking about how, you know, God will have so much to forgive us, you know, by the end of this story, you know, all this stuff. It's like, okay. And there has been some crazy stuff happening. Victoria has told me that there's been a lot, that there will be like crazy things, off the wall things happening, absurd things sometimes, and she loves that. So yeah, I'm excited about that. I did get to a point where I could listen to it pretty well without having to physically read along. Oh, mine are done. Okay, I've got my drinks. So, what I was saying was that I have switched to audiobook at some points in The Name of the Rose when it's like really focused on the mystery portions, and that has been working well, but I always kind of want to go back and reread the conversations because it's just interesting. Like, they'll just suddenly talk about St. Augustine or whether Jesus laughed. Like, they'll have arguments about these things, and I just really want to follow the thought because I find it very interesting. There's also some really heavy emphasis on what people look like, which I know is something that's common in classics, and it might be just like being part of the character, like it might be purposeful as part of the character. And it's also very Sherlockian. Sherlock would pick up every detail of a person in order to come up with his theories. So it could be either or both of those things. Some of his descriptions of people are just kind of strange, but I'm really enjoying how in-depth we are in the head of the main character that we're following, William of Baskervilles. I just feel like we're getting his character very strongly. I don't feel like necessarily that characterization is a big thing, but I feel like we're seeing what he thinks, I guess I would say. More than his personality, we're seeing what he thinks. So this book is more about what people think and what they look like than really what their personalities are like, I would say. It's more about their moral feelings and if they have guilt. Generally, I want to read every word of the story, but at some points I think I'll be able to just listen, which is good because I have a lot to read before Victober happens. There's also been a lot of like philosophies of science and what we should be doing with discoveries. So like certain people shouldn't even have access to science, whereas other people, you know, they would use it for ill, so they shouldn't have access. But yeah, it's interesting the kind of philosophies that they talk about. Anyways, I'm really enjoying it. I'm gonna continue on, and I'll talk to you guys. Maybe I'll wait until like 50% to talk to you guys again, because if I tried to talk to you again at 30%, this would be a very long vlog. Bye. Oh my gosh. This is wild. It used to be like water up to this wall. Look at those twisty looking trees. There's like multiple parts to the trunk. You guys know what kind of tree that is? I'm so curious. There's either a stork or a heron sitting out on that fishing boat right there. He's so pretty. It's a beautiful day. But it is a little hazy. My mom just mentioned that, and it's true. Not too bad today, though. We can't smell any smoke.
There's a little storm coming next week. I don't know if you saw that on your phone.
Oh, well, that's good. We can use some storms.
Yeah,
because the dock is still sitting on the ground.
It's a leftover.
For that.
Steep. Well,
That's
see,
very steep.
it's out
Look at all
farther
the
when the dock is
duckies.
up, you know.
Yes. Hello, duckies. I don't want to scare you, so I'll stay back here. Hello there, guys. It is now quite a bit later since I updated this vlog. I finished the book several months ago, and somewhere around the 30 mark, I just got really tired of the lengthy conversations and the roundabout way that things were being discussed in the book, which ended up with me giving it like maybe a 65 or 70, just because I do not like authors who waste my time. And part of the point of this book is that he forces you to like decipher the truth of the book. He forces you to work hard to decipher it. And for me, I'm just like, why would you do that? Seriously, cut it in half, get to the point. That's my writing style as well. In my writing, I was never super flowery. I was always like more of a get to the point kind of writer. And so I am also kind of a get to the point kind of reader. I'm not here to waste my time. So unfortunately, this book was very difficult for me in the long run. I read the whole thing physically through 50%. And then the second half of it, I listened to it for the most part, and I like dropped in a few moments here and there just to read the conversations, because the conversations were interesting. It's just that they didn't seem to really have a point to me. And eventually they did have a point. And for me, it was really fun looking back over my vlog footage, actually, because some of the things that I was noticing and being like, this is so interesting, you know, decoding basically out of the mess that is this novel, I found things that were important, and I mentioned them in this vlog. After getting to the end, I realized, oh, that was that was one of the clues. There was another of the clues that he left me, to help decipher the important parts of this novel. So it was like a treasure hunt looking back at my vlogging of this book, and I wish that I had kept my plan of vlogging at 50 and 75%, because I'm really curious what I would have said at that point, but it just didn't happen because I suddenly stopped being able to edit videos, and I got so behind that I didn't even remember what I had last said in this vlog, and it took me 3 months to read this book, and and I'm still kind of debating whether that was a good choice or not to finish it. It was a good choice in one sense because I got to read it with Victoria, which is always a treat, and I got to hear her thoughts on it as we read it, and I feel like the ending, honestly, I didn't pay that much attention by the end because I was pretty done with the book, but the ending it was fun going back through the footage, and there were some really great quotes. Listen to this. I love this. Truth is nothing but the adjustment between the thing and the intellect. Isn't that great? There are so many great quotes in here, so I did have a good time, I think, overall. So maybe 65 or 70 is about right. That's about a 3-star book. I just think for me, I, need it to be a little shorter for me to really give it a really high rating. But overall, I think this was a really cool book, and some people who are more patient than I am, a more patient reader, would probably enjoy this more. A lot more, because there's some really good stuff in here. So that's kind of my thoughts on the book. Planning to share some more quotes and some more stuff about it in a review, which will also be unedited. So that's my life lately. Thank you so much for joining me for this vlog. Let me know down below if you've read this book or if you are going to read it or whatever. I would just love to hear your thoughts. I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.